Hi, this is Keiko from Brooklyn Shoe Space. This is Shoe Talks Quarantine Edition. Today I am inviting Annie from Mohawk Shoes out near Chicago, Illinois, and it is our second time talking with her. We lost her video. I'm sorry for that, but we are doing like a follow-up, and you will get to see her studio, factory, and how she manufactures them. And I think since last time we met, she has new equipment, so she's going to be showing us a little more in depth about how she uses all those equipment. So it'll be great. Let's see. Annie has joined. Yes. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Yes, since the last time we spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's going on? I think you were doing PPE last time, but you just moved into, not just, but you moved into your new space. Um, and now, how has it been? The city's starting to open up a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Illinois is, I guess we are on phase 4, but here, like, we're required to wear a face mask. It's being taken fairly seriously in a lot of areas, so I think that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still making face shields, tons of face shields. That's actually probably, we're even like busier with that than last time I talked to you. So
Wow.
as places open up, and people are sometimes feeling like masks are a little hot on the face in the summer and stuff, the shields are really starting to take off. Or
Mm-hmm.
people wear both sometimes
Mm-hmm.
too for like ultra protection.
Protection. Oh, yeah, that's great. How do they find you? Like,
Uh, Mostly on Etsy, actually. So our Etsy store has really, really taken off. So I think that Etsy, thank goodness, is starting to start to advertise with Google. And
mhm,
so if people just Google face shields and then Etsy comes up in the shopping and our stuff can come up pretty
pops up.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
very cool.
that's been
Well,
easy. We haven't done any marketing at all. So it's so nice just to like let orders come in and just not even worry
not
about the
that
business.
is great. That is great. Yeah. Well, so for those who don't know you, I just wanted you to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and a little bit about yourself, like, how long you've been doing your Mohawk shoes, and where you are. That would
Cool.
be great if you can. Yeah.
My name is Annie Mohop. I grew up in northern Illinois on a farm in a tiny town, and wanted to actually. I majored in architecture in school, and worked as an architect for about 7 years. And I was really starting to feel like it was really desk jobby, like I was pushing a mouse around and I just thought like I really wanted to work with my hands like I
Hmm.
did growing up on a farm. And so I just thought like shoes. I mean, I think a lot of architects just like shoes in general because they are kind of
Structural, architectural. Yeah.
exactly. There's kind of you still need to to protect you from the elements and but also need to be aesthetically pleasing. It's kind of this combination of form and function that is like
Hmm.
really really important in footwear and also obviously important in architecture. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I ended up starting making shoes because a friend of mine invited me to join her at the Renegade Art Fair. And I was like, what can I make that maybe I would have an excuse to like kind of quit my career in architecture? And I was thinking about like jewelry or sewing or just little craft stuff. And then one day I was just like, shoes. Like, I'm going to make shoes. I just had this idea of like a shoe formed kind of like a skateboard. And so I was like, well, I'll try it. So, and that was in May 2005, I had the idea, and then I spent the next 6 months working 9 to 5 in architecture, and then like 5 p.m. to like the middle of the night on shoes every day, like a maniac, until September when we launched the shoes. And
Hmm.
they took off, although they didn't, as I mentioned last time. The first round of shoes I made were not structurally sound. So I ended up I realized it's just going to take too long to figure this out. So I quit my job and spent kind of the next year teaching myself how to make wood-soled shoes that won't break.
And it evolved from there. What machinery did you get first?
First, it was literally just a bandsaw. So I actually brought this like original kind of mold here. I don't know if you can see it.
Wow. Yeah.
Like a mold. We
Oh,
made it with
wow.
the bandsaw, and
Uh-huh.
then I put in sheets of plywood and
Yeah.
with glue in between each layer, and
Uh-huh.
stuck it in the mold to dry them. So that was kind of the
Wow.
first.
Wow.
And so we ended up kind of with something like this that I would band
Uh-huh.
them out. There was
Uh-huh.
that. And then I didn't know how to make uppers for like an art fair because I wasn't using lasts or anything. This is actually kind of more of like a woodworking project in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just did this kind of like ribbon ties on the forefoot. And so I just did like ribbon tie shoes actually for the first 10 years of the business as I tried to figure stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
But then over the years, we've developed like way more like complex shoes. So that have
Mm-hmm.
CNC 3D carved footbed and like
Yeah.
elements and the laser cut top and all that.
Very cool.
Um, 15 years difference between
This and that. Yeah. Yeah. So after the bandsaw, and then you started acquiring equipment,
Mhm.
knowing that is it because you're like, okay, time versus labor?
Yeah, partly. So with this original flat style, we were doing a lot of art shows, which was great because sometimes I got a lot of feedback from people. Sometimes it was stuff that kind of was like, I don't know what to do, but it really helped kind of push me forward. So a lot of people are like, that looks hard, that looks flat, that just does not look comfortable. And it is actually more comfortable than it looks, but it's still not as comfortable as kind of like a 3D carved footbed. So I was trying
Mm-hmm.
to figure out like how do we get more of like kind of a clog shaped footbed, and realized like CNC machines might be great because we could just set a block of wood on the machine and it'll do a lot of the woodworking. So that I kind of transitioned to that in like 2008 and got
Mm-hmm.
a CNC machine in late 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. So that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
my first piece of automated equipment, but it definitely kind of opened up a lot in terms of our capabilities and like kind of
Yeah.
footbeds we could make. So.
Yeah. And during those 15 years, do you feel like the technology you're using is also, has it evolved a lot or not so much?
Not as much as you would think,
Yeah.
because it's really been the CNC technology is really actually the CNC I think was developed in like the 80s. I mean, probably like the first hints of it like in the 60s, but I think it really started being used fairly widely in the 80s and 90s, and it hasn't really changed that much since then, or at least in what we're doing.
Right.
And then laser cutting as well. So there are advances actually in 3D printing,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that we do is kind of designed to incorporate like 3D printing as that kind of becomes more scalable. But right now, hopefully I do have some ideas for 3D printing. My next tool is a 3D printer. We do have one here, but it sucks. It like takes 24 hours to do something that the CNC can do in 15 minutes. So it's like,
Wow. Yeah. You can't compare that. Yeah.
so we've designed everything to kind of incorporate technologies as they kind of emerge and new things come about. But it's a lot less actually when 10 years ago when I really started thinking about technology and how do we incorporate technologies, it's moving way slower than I realized. So
Right.
just
Interesting.
yeah. I think part of it has to do just with manufacturing in general. It's
Yeah.
not as viewed as investable as
Right.
software and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we looked a little bit into like finding investors and just didn't even feel like is kind of a women run, which is kind of a knock against us in terms of venture capital, because only like 2% of venture capital goes
Yeah,
to women.
to women.
And then having a manufacturing company rather than a software company, like it's just well, on one hand, I want to consider us a tech company, but it's just not the same type of tech company that
Investors are looking for.
think that you can make like $10 billion in 2 years, because it doesn't move at that pace.
No.
So
Yeah. I see. I see. What do you think you can show us some of your shoes? Like the most recent ones that you're showing us, that green one that you just showed us, is that kind of like your most recent?
yeah, close. Yeah. So these were probably from last fall. So last fall, I finally figured out how to make a nicely shaped, uh, kind of like a
Closed toe.
closed toe without using a last. Obviously, in the Chicago area, selling sandals doesn't work so well for like 3/4 of the year. So we've had a lot of people request booties and things like that. So this is a way that we can still do something that's like booty
Very
slash,
cool.
but that
Yeah.
actually doesn't use any last. It's all kind of
Wow.
just by uh, very careful patterning. I mean,
Mhm.
this is like literally like days and days of trial and error on patterning, because I don't use any kind of fancy software in terms that'll kind of like generate patterns or anything like that. I just kind of uh,
You use
make.
Illustrator or
I use so I have used,
Rhino?
but it's Rhino is
Rhino.
mostly what I use. So which is it works well for me because I learned how to do CAD as an architect. So
Hmm.
Rhino is very kind of similar to AutoCAD and just the way you use it. And then you can use it for 2D and 3D. So I use it for most stuff now. Um,
Brilliant. And what I'm inspired by and amazed by that not many people might know is that you offer all half sizes from like 4 to like, what was it, 13?
Something like 3 to 15.
Oh my goodness.
Make like every size really, but we kind of advertise that we make 75 sizes. So narrows and half sizes, narrows, regulars, and wides. And then we can also make things that are further kind of made to order. If somebody like has a bunion or anything like that, we can make those adjustments, but kind of most people fit into those regular 75 sizes.
Wow. That's a lot that you offer. And you also don't have last. So it's also like, wow, you really figured it out.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the main reason why we can make that many sizes is because
You don't need to
from
tool
this
up. Yeah.
yeah, from the start I was like, I don't know if I can afford a set of lasts. Like that first art fair, I was like, I
Yeah.
can't afford lasts to figure this out. So I had to figure out how to make shoes without lasts, and hence kind of some of the woodworking and stuff, because we at the time I was doing a house renovation. We had some woodworking tools, and I was already always kind of interested in wood soled shoes anyway. I just liked clogs when I was growing up and stuff. So, yeah, where were we going with that? What were we talking about?
Yeah, right? No, yeah. The sizing that you just, yeah, that you don't use last and conventional ways of making. And I think that's you bring like a fresh eye to the shoemaking world in a way, like a fresh perspective, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, when I started in 2005, there wasn't like any any kind of forums or groups or anything
Yeah.
on making,
Yeah.
and
And there's no schools. I remember I checked. There were like a few schools in West Coast, but there weren't like a easy workshop really.
yeah, so I was just like, well, I just kind of looked at like some of the shoes that I had on hand and just kind of took them apart and looked at how they were made. And I was just I used really kind of my architect brain to kind of like reverse engineer
Yes.
and that we could do with our equipment. So, but it was rough because at the time there wasn't, I had run into a lot of problems where I would like ask, I had friends with the shoemaking instructor at the time at the School of the Art Institute, and I met with him, and I was like, I'm having some troubles here, and he's like, well, you're not making like shoes like regular shoes, so the issues that you are having are not regular shoe issues. So I met with like a woodworker, and he's like, I don't know anything about shoemaking, so good luck with
Yeah.
it. So it really
Who
took a lot longer than I thought it would to figure things out.
did you have somebody you can call and ask questions? Who do you consider as like a mentor for like your shoes, where you feel like you kind of really figured it out yourself?
Yeah, it was just because shoes, like, I don't know anybody who makes shoes like this, like, just because I was just making stuff up. But because I kind of made stuff up, we have these processes that work awesome for us, but it really is different enough from regular shoemaking that a lot of the issues I have would would work out totally different if you were sewing or if you were had a last. Because I also don't do sewing either. I love to sew personally, but everything is like riveted and nailed because
And
sewing is like, it's such a skill. And
yeah,
I do hope to scale this business up, and finding like talented sewists seems like one of the hardest things. So that's why we kind of designed them just to be riveted together, and everything kind of
hmm
assembles and fits together. Everything's kind of designed to align and fit together. So it's
yeah,
a lot less training because
yeah. So you took all your challenges into considerations for your design from the get-go. I feel like,
yeah.
yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. Do you think you can give us a tour of your place
Yeah,
to see
absolutely.
how your shoes are made?
Sure thing. Okay,
Cool.
how to switch this around. Okay, so I'm
Yay.
sitting in the loading dock of our workshop. We have like a 10,000 square foot building. The whole front is covered with ivy, which I really like.
Uh-huh.
We're kind
Yeah,
of
it's
like
nice
a
and green.
residential neighborhood, so it's
Oh,
comfy around here. Oh, there's Justin
nice.
scooting around on a scooter.
Yeah, I was wondering, you get so many steps in.
Yeah,
It's so
exactly.
big. Do you also have a scooter?
No, we share the scooter.
Yeah.
There's Justin there.
Hi.
So he is working on face shields today. So this is kind of
Mm-hmm.
our face shield packing station. We have a couple
Mm-hmm.
queued up, and we stick them in plastic and ship out
Mm-hmm.
massive quantities of them under there.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm going to take you into our CNC room, which is
Okay.
uh, just kind of blocked off with this plastic because the CNC throws up a lot of dust. You
Yeah.
can see dust kind of on the wall there.
Yeah.
But this is the machine. So
Wow.
it has two cutting heads. These are the cutting heads. One,
Mm-hmm.
two. They're like 10 horsepower. They're like super, super strong.
Wow. Wow.
And so then this is not on right now. But when we have it on, when we want to cut stuff out, we attach blocks to these kind of plates that fit into the CNC machine. So
Mm-hmm.
everything gets kind of screwed in. It's loose right now. But we screw
Mm-hmm.
everything on there and attach everything down so that it
Mm-hmm.
can't move.
Mm-hmm.
And this big cutter from the motor goes
Yeah, it's huge cutter.
and
Wow.
cuts it
Uh-huh.
out. It runs like 18,000 RPM and cuts
Wow.
out these shoe pieces like this. So, oops, sorry.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
that's kind of how it gets
Wow.
CNC'd out. So it just
Uh-huh.
comes off as a block there.
Uh-huh.
And so this whole room is kind of like our woodworking room. It's a bit of a mess today, although kind of not as messy as usual. Here's Justin again working on his shields. And then this is our wood stockpile. So
Yeah.
we use basswood mostly for the clogs because it's really
Mm-hmm.
lightweight and it's a
Mm-hmm.
sustainable
Strong.
hardwood from the
Yeah.
Midwest.
Yeah.
And we have some cherry and running low on walnut there, but the walnut makes really beautiful shoes.
Beautiful.
And here we have just some stockpile of
Mm-hmm.
CNC'd components. I need to get a shelf over here, but so that's just a bunch of extras that have come off the machine that are ready to
Uh-huh.
go.
Uh-huh. Do you mostly make to order and
Yes.
have a little bit of component ready? But yeah.
Yeah. So usually I will try and cut out, like if I'm running the CNC and it has two heads, I'll usually kind of try and cut out two at a time. So that way,
Mm-hmm.
the next time somebody orders that size, if it's a kind of a more unusual size, I don't cut out two. But if it's like a 7.5, these guys here are seven. Whoa, sorry, are 7.5. So I would cut out like 2 at once. So this is actually kind of what it looks like. Sorry, what it looks like when it's cut off the machine. And then I have a little template I set down here and then kind of trace and then cut that all out on
a
the bandsaw.
Aha.
So that's all kind of like bandsawed there.
Wow.
So I spend a lot of time bandsawing. But it ends up being kind of faster to bandsaw the bottom than to CNC it, just because of the style of CNC machine we have and various reasons. So this piece then gets sanded a bit, boop, boop, and then so here's our sanding machines here. Have a big line of them, so everything's kind of set up with like a different sort of yeah, exactly. So we kind of have the rough, and then the medium, and then this one here polishes. So this is my desk, which is kind of messy, but actually not as messy as normal. But so here's a bunch of shoes that I wanted to get done today, and it's not going to happen today, but soon.
Soon, yes.
Here are some. This is kind of the next level. Then I glue on soling, and then
rubber.
Yeah, exactly, and then glue on this footbed, which is lasered, and then that gets glued on there. So on the footbed, you can kind of see there's lines that we etch on there, and that helps me like align the uppers. So all these lines kind of like, they look kind of decorative-ish, but they really help when it's time to kind of put the uppers on, and I can like just make sure everything's aligned and I don't have to think about anything. It just kind of comes together.
Nice.
So
very nice.
These are some of my favorite clogs there. So then, and that's also where I do kind of mostly assembly. I'm going to take us into the laser room. First I'm going to show you right here, over here. This is one of my favorite bags. It's so pretty in the light, the iridescent. My arms are not quite long enough to show it all, but it's got beautiful really cool colors.
Yeah, and it also, you backed it, so it also has like a body, like a very sturdy look too.
It actually,
I remember last time people were asking, where do you get your iridescent material?
Sorry.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
But yeah, it's really, so it's, the material itself is somewhat thin, so we laminate it. I'll show you kind of our laminating area, but I'm going to turn this machine off. It's a little loud.
I mean, if it's working right now, don't stop it.
Oh, no, nothing's on. I'm just going to, I know what I got to do. Sorry. I just don't want to yell too much. Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the iridescent. So on the bag like that, we laminate actually the shoemaking materials inside the bag. So we actually use a material for shoes in between, and it gives it like a really nice kind of springy layer in the middle of the tote. So it feels like super luxurious and structural and stuff.
Nice.
Anyway, here is our laser room. This is my new favorite room because we have 1, 2, and 3 lasers.
Wow. Wait, last time did you have 2 or 1?
We had 1 that worked and 1 that didn't work, and now we have 3 that work.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great because we can use this one to
dedicate it for the face shields,
and then kind of 1 for shoes and 1 for bags or different materials, so we can really get so much done. I'm going to show you a little bit. This is kind of my favorite laser, but I'm going to show you a little bit on my computer, if I can, about kind of the 3D modeling. So this is a 3D model of the shoe, kind of. So I kind of draw that. This took like years and years to figure out how to make like a really, really comfy footbed. It would really just be like, I would kind of cut something out, try it on, see how it feels, and then just kind of, this is an evolution of years with feedback actually from doing art fairs, and do you you want a higher arch, lower arch? Does it need to be wider here and stuff like that? So
Yeah.
it's really, really kind of narrowed in with the feedback of literally thousands of people. So,
Right.
and then I have this is Rhino,
Mm-hmm.
and I use a program called Rhino Cam that creates files for the CNC machine. So it's really cool. I'm going to try and figure out how I can do this. So it will show you kind of how to cut stuff out.
Wow.
Here we go.
Okay.
So this is what the machine looks like when it's cutting it out.
It's cutting
this
it
takes
out.
about 15 minutes.
Okay.
But this is like what actually happens. So you kind of it's also like trial and error, trying to figure out like how really kind of the best tool paths. So what it is generating tool paths, as it's called. So so it cuts out like the layers, and you can choose which way to do it. And yada, yada. So that's kind of what we do, and then this information gets translated to code, which I then send to the CNC machine, and then that cuts it out. And then as far as the 2D, I just kind of draft everything flat. So this is this is a giant messy file. But so say, for example, I really need to organize my files, but so this is like kind of a certain toe style that I have scaled in different sizes, and like the half sizes and narrows and wides. And so then I just have all these pattern pieces and then set them up on a sheet of materials and then export that to the laser. So then the components get kind of cut out like this. So this is like an ankle strap that I cut out this morning. It's just sitting there ready to go. So then we just have like a whole bunch of materials kind of glued up and ready to go that we set on the machine. But again, talking about like lamination, it's really kind of hard to see, but
it's pretty substantial.
Yeah, we have the outer layer of the faux leather, then a 16th inch shoemaking pad, the same thing that we use in the bags, and then a liner of a really soft faux suede. So everything kind of molds to your foot. That middle layer is kind of reactive to heat, so it'll mold to the shape of your foot. So the shoes are like super comfy. That's some of our processes. Here we kind of like to laser stuff. So here's like just a bunch of components we cut out of flower parts. So those are kind of fun to put together. I'm experimenting with iridescent stuff as well. So always with the iridescent around here.
Give a little sparkle.
Yeah, exactly. This machine is our ribbon cutter. We used to make ribbon shoes.
Oh, look at that face.
He sucks bad. Sorry, Robert. He's not dependable, even though he makes a lot of money. And we're kind of going into the main area of the
look at this.
Really, really, really big room here of like 4,000 square feet all around. That eventually will be full of happy employees, but right now is just for storage. And we have a whole bunch of shoes we need to sell online, old sample stuff. All right, continue the tour.
Wow, it's so big.
Here is our die cutting machine. We also use it, it's actually set up now as a press. So when we laminate our materials together, we press it to make sure that the glue sticks really well. But we use it for cutting out soling. So the soling doesn't laser really well. It's just more efficient just to cut out kind of like a random shape here, and then we cut it out a little bigger in the bandsaw. So that's that. So various materials. Here's a lot of plastic for all our face shields.
Wow. What's the quantities that people order? Is it like end customers, like they order one at a time, or do you also do like not wholesale, but there are people who buy like 1,000?
We were, especially at the early days, we were making them in like quantities of hundreds or even like 1,000 here and there.
Wow.
But now on Etsy, it really is, it's kind of transferred more to onesies, or we'll do a lot of like dentists or hair salons or places where people are working fairly face to face, so they want kind of that extra protection, and the mask isn't always ideal. So,
and it's nice to see your face because it's clear, right?
Yeah, exactly. So as school's open, I have so many teachers who are like, we need these shields because you can't really teach through a mask. Like
Yeah.
you're shouting, it's still
Yeah.
hard to like see what people are saying. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're working on now is back to school. So I'll show you a
Great.
little bit more about that.
Yeah.
This is our new bandsaw. We had to get a table saw. We had to
Ooh.
get a table saw to cut the plastic, but I is so excited because I really wanted a table saw for a long time. Anyway, some more materials.
Nice.
Here are our faux leathers.
Uh-huh.
So we have
Oh, you
a
have
lot
all the
right now I play
sparkles.
around with, but yeah, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
shiny stuff. And then
Yeah.
it is a really cool material. It's actually 100% nylon. So it has these fibers kind of
Mm-hmm.
laid three-dimensionally like
Mm-hmm.
collagen in skin. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
little actually more breathable
Mm.
than a lot of faux leathers. And also it's not PVC. PVC you
Right.
cannot laser. So
No.
this nylon laser is awesome. It's really great,
Oh, that's
actually.
great. That's great.
So and then we have here a glue room. It's kind of hard to see. It's dark in there. But we have a whole like glue extractor and a little air run kind of like glue
Mm-hmm.
pot down
Uh-huh.
yonder.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how we
Very
glue a lot of
cool.
stuff right now. But this is
Uh-huh.
our new machine that we got in February and haven't even had a chance to use yet. And this will glue together big sheets of materials. And that's going to save
Yeah.
us a lot of time because
Yes.
there's sometimes when we're in that glue room for hours gluing up materials. So this we can just do a sheet, hopefully in like, a minute or two to glue a whole
Wow. Wow.
yard by 54 inches versus
Wow.
something like that would take like a half hour to do by
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
So, and then we
Wow.
have kind of a packing and shipping area
Mm-hmm.
here
Mm-hmm.
and a little photo
Photo
shoot
shoot.
area
Yeah,
there.
photo area.
And
Nice.
yeah, that's the
So,
whole
so
tour.
I feel like you can kind of set it up and move around to the next and then have it kind of work, all the machines work for you. Is that kind of what you
Yes.
do in a day? Like you kind of rotate between the
Yeah.
stations?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing more satisfying than when like the CNC machine's running. Now we have a couple lasers running, and I'm like, I have like a whole team working here,
Yeah.
but I can like just work without a bra because we have no employees right now. So it's very hot. It's too hot for a bra these days.
And it's just the two of you, which is also nice. Yeah, yeah. And so much space. Wow.
Yeah,
You have a lot of space to grow, which is
yeah, we really do. We were so lucky to find this building. Just that Rockford is about. So we started the business in Chicago, and we did our first kind of 12 or 13 years there, and we kept on actually every couple of years we kept on getting kicked out of our spaces because we would rent like kind of old buildings that were a little run down or whatever, but I would always get a great deal from the landlord because he's like, take it as it is. But every single time the building would get sold to a developer and then we'd get kicked out, and
yeah.
with the CNC machine and stuff like that.
It's hard to move.
So
Yeah.
it would just really be ultra disruptive to the business, and it takes like a whole month to kind of get everything
Set
set.
it up. Yeah.
Yeah, because some of the like the CNC needs like electricians and special. It's like three-phase power, and it's a whole thing. So
Yes.
yeah, so about 2 years ago, the last time like the building we were in was like almost downtown, which was awesome. I loved being like kind of downtown Chicago, but it started off being almost downtown. It got rezoned as downtown while we were there. And so the
Wow.
building got torn down and a 27-story high rise put up.
Wow.
But
Wow.
yeah, we were like, we have to buy a building because we cannot
Move all the time.
years. And there's no way we can afford a building in Chicago. So this is about 80 miles west. It's close enough that we can take day trips to Chicago. And we do, in fact, I'll go into it a little later, but we do hope to open a store in Chicago. So
Nice.
it has the best of both worlds. And this is kind of a very manufacturing oriented community. There's like kind of a good labor force available.
That's great.
We still kind of have ties for Chicago, but we could
Mm-hmm.
buy this building for like like nothing. It was like they were almost giving it away. It was like literally
Wow,
of the price it would have been in Chicago. So uh, we
that
love
is great.
it.
Yeah. And with all the manufacturing that you do, with all the equipment, advanced technology, like I feel like the labor force is also something that you can also train. And
Yeah.
like it's not specific solely to shoes. And also everything that you do, you kind of specifically for your business, you built up so you can train them,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is
Yeah, because that was, I mean, it kind of early on, I realized like training is a lot of work, and then especially with the very specialized skills needed when you're lasting and sewing and all that stuff is very difficult. Like,
yeah.
but this way we can work with the local community colleges just launching kind of a tech center and advanced manufacturing center where they're training people on using
Hmm.
PCs and all that stuff. So, so it's going to be a really great resource for us
Yeah.
because those skills can be
Translate. Yeah.
doing versus I don't know where you like find a shoemaker to hire. Like,
Yes. Yeah. 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 No, absolutely. Would you take interns like
yeah,
from there?
we would and we do for sure. So it kind of depends on kind of what our needs, but we've had interns before and stuff. So looking
Yeah.
for the right people, you know, sometimes you get what you pay for. So we usually do try and pay people as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to take advantage, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah. No.
know,
Yeah. Um, what do you, so now that you opened up, do you do something differently? Do you feel like what's what do you feel like is different since the lockdown and or before? Like, is there something that you feel like it changed?
well, yeah, I mean, last year was we did a lot of art fairs. So we really were on
Mhm.
the road like every weekend, kind of all over the country, really. We did some shows in Florida. And this year we had, I mean, everything is canceled. Like all of our
Yeah.
shows are canceled. And at first we were looking at the numbers, and we do basically 50% of our income is from shows and 50% from online sales. And we're like, oh my gosh, without 50% of the income, what are we going to do? Um, we ended up really quickly finding out that there is a need for the face shields. So we were able to pivot really fast. But and that's another great thing about this factory and all this equipment that's not specialized for shoemaking, because it was really important to us if we're going to buy a building and buy all this equipment and stuff. Worst case scenario, if everybody in the world is like, I do not want clogs, we can kind of change our processes and make something that people want. So we were able to pivot like pretty much immediately to face shields. Like the moment I read that people were needing face shields, I ordered some plastic from a supplier a mile away and picked it up and started lasering out tries. And within 3 days, we had a
Up.
massive order and we were making them right away. So,
That is great. Do
yeah.
you feel that that's an advantage for doing it all local and
Yeah.
making it? I was gonna ask you what the challenges were or are of manufacturing here in US, as well as like the benefits. So like I guess this is a benefit of like
Yeah.
you can
Yeah. Benefit
small
is
size. Yeah.
our flexibility that I feel totally like kind of in control of the process. Now, I did one season manufacture in China that was in 2010. And
How
what
did that go?
it was horrible. It was so at the time, actually, we were starting to get some really good publicity. We were one
Mhm.
of the new vegan footwear companies or eco-friendly, and we started getting a fair amount of copycats, and I couldn't keep up. And one of our, at the time, we were wholesaling, and kind of our main wholesale store that we had like a really good relationship with. Anyway, I couldn't keep up, so they ordered a copycat of our shoes, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna like let all this work I put into developing. That was I'd been in 5 years at that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, how am I gonna let, because I can't keep up with things. Like some people come along and sweep up my whole business idea. That was the ribbon sandal thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like, screw it, I'm going to China. And part of the reason why I was able to go so fast is I had actually some Chinese what do you call it where they help you import? There's like a word for it. Oh, something
Uh,
like import agent or whatever.
okay, yeah.
Or sourcing agent. Sourcing agent.
Sourcing agent, okay.
So I had some sourcing agents contact us, and so I just got so mad about the copycats. I was so reactive that I was just like, I'm going to China. And so I literally booked a trip to China the next week, got on a plane, like just went there. Luckily, the sourcing agents met me, and I found a factory and stuff like that. And then we actually, I came back in like a few months later also to check on the progress of how they were doing there. And everything looked good. And then a couple months later, back here, I got our shipments and they all fell apart. Like literally immediately. I put them on and I was like, yay, shoes I didn't make, but they're Mohops. And I walked like to the Staples next door to get some printer paper or something. On the walk, like 50 paces with these shoes on, they fell apart. Like it
What?
was one of the worst days of my life for sure. So
Yeah.
I called the sourcing agents and screamed at them, and they were like, well, what are you going to do? The factory says you can send them back if you want, knowing full well, obviously, how am I going to send back 2,400 pairs of shoes like to China and have them fix them and send them back when I owed them to stores in, within a week or two.
Yeah.
So we ended up kind of taking them apart and putting them back together. And it was at that point that I was like, I am never depending on any other factory. Like, this is crazy. We're going to have to like figure out.
Yeah. Do you think it was just your methods
Yeah.
just work really well and it's pretty specific. It's like
Yes.
something that they might do as like a factory, as like production procedure just doesn't work.
Exactly. That's
Mm.
exactly it. Because I had this kind of style of shoe that we had developed, and they were like, "Well, that's not really how shoes are made." But they're like, "Well, we'll do it anyway." And they didn't. I gave them very specific instructions. I sent them
You had
videos.
files. Uh-huh.
I sent them everything, and they just were like, "These are weird shoes." We weren't important customers, and they just
That's too bad.
put them together right. So, but that was a big lesson, and we did get through it at least. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it made me stronger. But yeah, I love having our own factory. Like I went from being like kind of like, is this a good idea? And then really, as this COVID
COVID.
saw that we're doing actually really well. Like so many
Hmm.
small businesses are suffering, and so many people are kind of trapped. And I'm like, we're busier than ever. Like I would like if I
Right.
hire people and finally grow, because the face shields are pretty easy to make and pretty scalable with our tech.
Yeah.
So
Did it give you confidence to like add more things? It might not be a mohawk line per se, but would you make other things? Say after the face shields, maybe something else? Would you design some other product?
like well, we always are coming up kind of with new stuff. And so usually we have talked about, do we want to do like contract manufacturing for other people? Not really. That kind of ends up being more work than it's worth. Or just doing some like cheesy stuff that we're not proud of as Moha, but we could just use our tools and equipment to do. So we haven't really gotten to that point yet. Actually, we're just like so busy with our own stuff. And
That's good. That's
so,
great.
but whenever I think of something that seems like it could be made well with our tools, we kind of have our palette of materials. So a lot of things that we design do kind of fit within the palette of the faux leathers or
Hmm.
woods or now plastics and acrylics and things like that. But
Yeah.
things in that realm, nothing metal or anything like
Yeah. 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 What do you think are the challenges? Do you have challenges, like say sourcing? Were the vendors closed during COVID?
we were actually okay. We never,
Good.
there wasn't one single place that we called that we couldn't work with. So almost all of our supplies are from the US.
That's great.
Yeah, it seems like everything just kind of stayed open enough that we were able to order things without a problem. Like really the only thing that we did have trouble sourcing plastic for a little while, the initial for making the face shields. But in terms of our shoemaking materials, we never had any problem with that at all. So that was
That's fantastic. Yeah, and you make heels, you make the wedges yourself, which is yeah, you make the components. So yeah,
on one hand, like it seems like a little crazy and a lot of work, but then on the other hand, it just gives us so much flexibility.
control and flexibility. Yeah. So that's great. Yeah. Have you ever had moments in this 15 years, like a challenge where you're like, oh my God, I might give up, and you overcame it?
Yeah, there were three full times where I said, I quit, I'm done with this business, and or came really close. The first was actually just the first art fair that we did when I made these shoes again. And the problem is, especially, I gotta show you these. I would do goofy things like this heel. That heel's not sturdy, but it was so what I did when I was prototyping is I would kind of make something and throw it on and like walk around the block, and I was just testing for comfort. And then when we sold them at the art fair, they were comfortable enough that people were wearing them for miles, and so they weren't really made to last for miles, it turns out. So I had to like, that was when I was like, do I give refunds to all these customers who had broken shoes, or do I like go back to the drawing table and engineer these to be much more structurally sound? And I really did enjoy, I really enjoyed the prototyping process and kind of like engineering and trying things out in new ways. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to quit my job instead of quitting shoes, and pursued that. And then the
Yeah.
second, the Chinese shoe disaster.
Yeah.
And the third time was in 2014. I had a whole bunch of employees. We had a staff of like 8, and
Wow.
had a really successful Kickstarter. But I was not a good manager. I was not prepared I just kind of hired like a bunch of friends of friends, and I was not mentally prepared for the amount of training it takes to make shoes. Like in my head, I was like, oh, I'll just show them how to do it and then they'll do it. But in reality, it's way more complicated than that.
Yeah. And you have spent already by that time, what, 10 years?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I had read some time like slightly after that LL Bean takes 6 months to train people to make their duck boots, and I was like, okay, so my expectation of people like picking up on this instantaneously is so far off.
Yeah.
And so I was like, basically, I was just like, I can't handle this, and I told Justin, my partner, at the time, I was like, I quit. Um, Funny backstory, he was actually my UPS driver, and he was still my UPS driver that whole time we were dating. And when I told him I was quitting the company, he's like, how about I quit UPS and join you, and like, let's make this thing happen. Because
Oh my gosh. This is like
like,
a amazing love story.
yeah, it was very sweet. Yeah, when we first met, we started chatting, and then I started enjoying him coming by. So I'd be like, I need a pencil, and I'd order a pencil from Amazon, so he'd come by every day.
That is so cute. And then he picked up all the technology, tech stuff really quick, or is it kind of like you guys developed some things together, brainstorm? Is he like really integral part of all your new things that's coming?
It's been kind of an evolution. So initially, he started helping on actually just things like packing and shipping and customer service and kind of office management, and just kind of learning the ins and outs of kind of the way things are run, and being kind of like just like my right hand assistant. So if
Hmm.
I would be like, okay, we're doing this step on the next set of shoes, just do this. And he would just help me when we were working on like a batch of shoes. But yeah, now he's really like the lasers. Like at this point, he knows way more about the lasers than I do. He's been spent a lot of time when machinery goes down,
Can
like
fix it. Yeah.
stuff. So last week I fixed the CNC and he fixed the laser, and so we're
Wow.
all
You're,
crafting around here. It feels really good to like fix your equipment like that.
yes.
That's one of the things I'm really proud of when something goes down, and then I'm like, here, let me put this thing here and put this, and
Yeah, yeah, you're the technician. Yes, yes. You need to pass it down somehow to, or like grow. Yes, definitely. I don't know if it's interns, but yeah. Do any of your family members or like do you have a big family? I'm not sure, but is there anybody in your family that wants to come and work with you or for you?
my niece just turned 15, and I'm really excited for her to one more year. She's probably going to be working here a lot in the summer. So she lives fairly close by. So I'm excited about that. My parents were always like really considering like how rocky it was here for years and years. Like I was really kind of like on the edge, and I know they were like, is what she's doing really responsible, but they always kind of supported me, but unfortunately they've both passed away in the
Oh, sorry.
so yeah, so a bit of an orphan. but
Oh, yes. But yeah, that
but
it'll be fun next year. Is it next summer possibly for your niece to come?
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that'll be great. And then yeah, kind of our near-ish term goal.
Yes.
uh,
Yes, I wanted to go there. Yeah.
we
Future.
Yeah, we would love to open a storefront in Chicago. So originally that was 2021. Now, I don't know, maybe we can still pull it off in 2021, or maybe we need to wait a while. I don't know. But I really think a storefront, I'm actually not one of those people who kind of always dreamed of having a storefront. I know some people like it's, this idea of having a boutique or whatever is like,
Yeah.
well, but I realized like we were doing all these art fairs and stuff, and I loved having the interaction with the
Yeah.
customers, seeing kind of what they like about things. But because we were traveling around, we didn't get like the follow ups and create these like
Yeah.
chips and stuff. So as we there, I have a lot of questions about what draws people to like our shoes. Is it the
Mm.
custom fit? Is it the materials? Is it they're like ethically produced? Um, sorry, there's a
That's okay.
so and and is it the fit, the durability, like and really be able to kind of nail into people like why are they coming in, why are they coming back, like we've
Yeah.
had we really do have great relationships with our customers, and I think that'll kind of take it to the next level. And
Hmm.
also we want to get actually a foot scanning machine, and
Yeah.
then really start and see like can we do kind of the creating the
Custom.
3D model from the scan and stuff like
Mm.
that. So
Mm.
something we've been thinking about for a really, really long time. They were saying for a long time, oh, there's going to be these apps that you can scan
Yeah.
with your phone and stuff, and none
Yeah.
of it really ever happened. I mean, we've been hearing about this for years and years.
Yeah.
This app, you can scan your foot, and it's not happening. And I just don't think that because kind of your weight distribution is really kind of important, especially to our footbeds, is that like a true like foot 3D scanner
Hmm. Hmm.
would be what we need, and that's like a
Hmm.
physical object that kind of needs a home.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you feel like if you had like unlimited resources and a time, is that something that you would like develop like as like a equipment slash software? Would you kind of go that route?
yeah, I applied for a government grant for that like a year and a half ago.
Mm.
So it's going to be like $1 million grant to get that technology, but I did not get it, and I think it's because I don't have a doctorate. For whatever reason, they are very, very concerned about your schooling and want you to
Wow.
in engineering. And I'm like, I feel like I kind of have a doctorate in engineering from my experience doing all this, but
Yes.
I don't have the piece of paper. So they're like,
Oh,
they literally wrote back and they were like, we don't think you're capable of this. And I was,
what?
huh? Did you see?
Uh,
And that was actually
yeah.
like kind of a double-edged sword, because they're like, you have gotten this technology so close that you don't need this grant, but also we don't think that you can actually make this happen. It was
What?
very frustrating.
That is really frustrating. Wow. But
So,
I feel like that's something that you know the needs, and you know what it can do and what you need from it. Like I feel like you have solved what you need already. You just need
yeah,
like, yeah, somehow with
yeah,
maybe combination of the existing technology and some software portion, I feel like you can get this down.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of kind of like connecting these processes. So we can get a
Yeah,
3D scan, we can CNC or 3D print like kind of a footbed based on this scan. It's just kind of automating the kind of creating an automated software process that kind of bridges that
yeah.
automatically for us, because in the past what I've done is take a tracing of people's feet and
Hmm.
then kind of use that, imported the tracing into the computer, and then kind of physically moved the 3D model around until it kind of matched what I thought their tracing was. So like in the tracing, you can kind of, if you kind of get the pencil underneath their
Yeah,
foot, kind of see like their arches and like kind of the
yeah,
location of the arch and how high
yeah,
it is, stuff
yeah.
like that. So that's what we were doing for a while, and that was like, that ended up being way more labor than I thought
Oh
it.
yes. Yeah.
So
That's
that kind of
yeah.
gave until we plug in the automated process.
Yeah, yeah. I think you can do it. I'm looking forward to that.
That would be awesome.
Yes, yes. Yeah, a storefront would be nice. In your workshop factory, is there a space where people can just come in and try out your shoes, or is this kind of like you want to keep it separate?
I do kind of want to keep it separate just because when we're working, like usually I am just covered in sawdust. And when people come in, it's super, super disruptive. So I feel like I do have to separate those processes, and either I'm
Mm-hmm.
making stuff or I'm kind of working with customers.
Selling. Right.
Juggling at the same time is, I can't do
Yeah.
it.
No, I understand. Yeah. Well, I hope that yeah, oh, I was gonna ask, so on a like a given day or week, how many pairs do you kind of make? Is it more, oh, I might have asked you that because you did say it's like per order plus extra components.
Yeah, so usually, well, when we're doing art fairs, we'll probably take orders if it's a good fair for like 30 or 40 pairs of shoes, and then try and get those done within like a few weeks after. Sometimes we
Wow. That's
busy and we end up kind of far behind. So we try and tell people like 3 or 4 weeks, and sometimes it does take 6 weeks because our
mhm.
queue ends up getting a little backed up. But now, since we're really focusing kind of on the face shields, we still do, I have that pile of shoes on my table. Like it's a
Mhm.
batch of 10 I'm working on, and
Mhm.
I have like another batch. So we're really, right now, we're only getting orders for like less than we used to deal with. So maybe like 10 or 20 pairs a week, which I can basically kind of keep up with. And we have not
That's
been
great. Mhm.
promoting at all whatsoever. Like right now, I really am kind of, I feel like, especially with the back to school. Oh, I didn't show you, but time's almost up. But we're
Yeah.
working face shields. So that's kind of the big thing. There's not a lot of face shields for kids right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially kids with like sensory issues. Like it can be hard
Mhm.
to mask on
Mhm.
the face. So,
Yeah.
so we're making shields that hopefully kids will want to wear, and we're working on
Yeah.
actually using some like kind of like origami principles we use in making the shoes and the bags in kind of a cool face shield. So
And
we're,
you can also add your like beautiful CNC like or laser cut like flowers and stuff as attachments.
yeah, we're like literally thinking about like a whole face shield collection.
Yes.
Face shields like less dorky. The ones we make right now are, they're useful, but they're not cool. So
Right, right.
is it possible to make face shields that aren't like embarrassing to wear? I don't know. Or
Absolutely. I think it is going to be the new norm, so you can totally spearhead it. You know, in Asian countries, there's like that sunblock shield. It's like a hat, but it has a face shield
oh,
with like a UV. I mean, I thought it was so funny looking, but everybody wears it, you know?
yeah,
But
yeah,
also, or like Crocs, you know, they have those little button things. They
yeah.
like interchange and they trade with friends. The kids love that kind of thing. I feel like it's something you can do. Oh my gosh, it says 20 seconds remaining.
Oh, well, it's so good talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so happy you're like doing really well, and I look forward to seeing what comes up next.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. So,
Yes, sounds good.
all right. Take care.
Thank you.